Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader. We have got a lot to get to. Tons of stories out there. I got to get ready for my television show here in a little bit as well. Let me give you a rundown of where we're headed. The Browns win last night. The Jets are awful. The NFL top 5, bottom 5. Daniel Jones in for Eli Manning, who is being benched. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been traded to the Steelers. Jalen Ramsey has demanded a trade. The Antonio Brown investigation hits a new level. Cam Newton out with an injury. How long is he going to be out? And Spurrier takes a shot at Willie Taggart. All of that to come, but we began with the Browns win last night. Several takeaways, among them Odell Beckham absolutely dominant. But alarmingly for the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield has not been good in the first 2 weeks. Now, you may be of the opinion, and it's certainly valid at this point in time if you want to be of this opinion, that it doesn't really matter because quarterbacks are dropping like flies. So as long as your quarterback, who you think is pretty good, is still eligible, it's sort of like a Lord of the Flies right now, right? Lord of the Flies, whoever is left standing. It's a Hunger Games for quarterbacks right now in the NFL. So even if your guy's not playing very well, as long as your starter is there and he's surviving and advancing, like in the NCAA tournament, or he's not dying and getting the cannon shot off in the Hunger Games with his image up in the sky, things are actually going okay. Having said that, I think the way Baker Mayfield is playing is alarming. I don't think he's playing very well at all. The Jets were awful. I'm not sure how many teams the Browns would have beaten last night, but fortunately for them, they got to play against the Jets, and Trevor Siemian became the latest MASH unit quarterback in the NFL. Just think about this, where we've been since the season started. You got the decision by Andrew Luck to retire. Drew Brees, 6 to 8 weeks for the thumb. Ben Roethlisberger out for the season. You've got the Jets quarterback, who everybody was excited to see go up against Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, out with mono. You got Trevor Siemian tearing several ligaments in his ankle. Somehow his bones didn't break, but he's out for the season with ankle ligament damage. And then you've also got Nick Foles taking it right in the collarbone in week 1 of season 1. And now Cam Newton is also out. He wasn't at practice today for the Carolina Panthers. He says that his foot has been re-injured. All of those things combined, you put all those quarterbacks together, I believe that's 7 quarterbacks. That's almost a fourth of the league that is on a MASH unit in the first 2 weeks of the season. So that is pretty wild what exactly is going on. But again, the MASH unit that is the NFL, I don't know how much longer this can go on, but if your guy's still upright, you feel like at least that's a positive, okay? Coming in, a couple of other things that are out there. Eli Manning, as if that were not enough, 7 injuries. Eli Manning has now been benched, which takes us to 8. Fully 8 of the 32 quarterbacks who have started games in the NFL so far out with injury. And this is pretty wild when you actually break it down. Eli finished with a 116 and 116 record. I believe, and some people will disagree, that Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback, and that he, with a 2-time Super Bowl winning championship, he will advance to Canton. I understand some people disagree. I believe Eli, given all of his resume, is going to Canton. But the question that I have, given that he's 38 years old now, is does Eli want to be a backup in the NFL? Does he want to stand on the sideline and hold a clipboard? I saw that he's got 4 kids, 8 or under. I certainly can respect that. I've got 3 kids, 11 or under. And it's difficult to relocate, especially when you've been in the same place your entire life. So, will someone trade for Eli? Does Eli even want to continue to play and try to chase a championship? It's the only reason I can see why he could theoretically want to play. But it's up in the air what exactly Eli is going to do for the rest of this season. Like I said earlier about Cam Newton, don't see Eli as the kind of guy who hangs on by the fingertips to his entire NFL career. He shouldn't need money at all. He doesn't need to prove anything. He's already won multiple Super Bowls. So I don't think Eli's going to be a backup. If somebody's willing to trade for him, I could see the Giants allowing that to happen. But who right now would trade for him? I don't think the Steelers would, because I think they want to see what Mason Rudolph has got. I don't think the Jags would, because they've already made one quarterback trade to try to get Josh Dobbs in. They're already right now playing with Gardner Minshew, and they think Nick Foles is coming back. The Dolphins are awful. That doesn't make sense for them to trade. I just don't know who the team is out there that could make this move. I think if I were trying to set it out there, that it probably makes sense maybe for Eli to just wait it out and see who the next quarterbacks are to get injured. Some of you might say the Saints could use him. I don't know that Eli is substantially better than Teddy Bridgewater. If they believe Sean Payton that he is, then maybe that could make sense. But I really just don't buy it as a general rule, all right? So Eli with an incredible, I think, career relative to expectations. Anybody who wins multiple Super Bowls in my book is a Hall of Famer, particularly when they've had the longevity that Eli Manning has. But the Daniel Jones era officially begins. And what's amazing about the Daniel Jones era is how quickly all those Giants fans who were furious that they took Daniel Jones number 6 overall after his preseason performance are absolutely in love with him. It's funny in and of itself how much that has been a storyline. Everybody who was ripping the Giants for making this decision, now they suddenly love Daniel Jones. So we'll see. Only took 2 weeks for the Daniel Jones era to officially be underway. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been traded from the Dolphins. I don't know that we've ever seen a fire sale like this from an NFL team before. We've seen tanking happen in the NBA. I don't know that we've seen intentionally tanking happen in the NFL. They traded Laramie Tunsil. They traded Kenny Stills. Now they've traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. This is a franchise that seems hell-bent on actually losing as many games as they possibly can. The more intriguing aspect, we understand the Dolphins' motivation. The more intriguing aspect to me here is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because yesterday, I said, I thought the best move for the Steelers was to follow the model of the Colts a few years ago. Stink for a year while your all-star quarterback is out injured. Go into the draft, get a great young quarterback, and don't ever have to worry about passing the baton and being awful for years. Evidently, the Steelers aren't willing to do that. They may believe in Mason Rudolph. We'll see how good he is starting in Week 3. But to me, the Steelers are already 0-2. I think a potential top 10 pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick is a high price to pay. In my personal opinion, I'm not sure if I were the Steelers that I would be giving up a top 10 pick, because that's where I definitely think he is going to end up, the Steelers. I think they're going to have a top 10 pick. I'm surprised that they would give that up. Now we'll see. Since we don't know exactly where the pick will end up, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice for both teams. The Steelers, obviously, you want to be as successful as you can now, and that is why I think this is an intriguing move. All right, Jalen Ramsey, all-pro, Nashville guy, born and raised like your boy here. Jacksonville Jaguar corner is on the market now. And I think it's going to be intriguing to see what exactly happens with Jalen Ramsey, because he's not necessarily in the early part of his career in terms of how much you're going to pay him. But I think this is the play that makes the most sense. I think if you went out and you were the Kansas City Chiefs and you did whatever it took to get Jalen Ramsey on your team, I think given the defensive struggles that the Chiefs have had, to add Jalen Ramsey into that secondary when, let's be honest, in the AFC right now, it is a battle between the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs, assuming, and you have to say assuming now because of all the injuries we've had happen, assuming Brady and Mahomes stay healthy. And if I'm looking ahead and trying to project how do you match up the best of all, I think what the Chiefs need is some shutdown corner play. They need, especially if you assume that Antonio Brown's going to be playing, especially if you assume that Josh Jordan's going to stay out of trouble, Julian Edelman, and the possibility of Gronk coming back down the line, you need help out there. And so I believe that the two teams that have a chance to win a championship in the AFC most significantly are the Patriots and the Chiefs. If I were the Chiefs, I would make that move. I don't think there's any doubt at all that that is the play that makes the most sense. There's a lot of teams that would like Jalen Ramsey, but to me, when you go all in like this, you need to go get somebody who can actually win a championship. And if you're going to be able to do that, then you need to make a run while you can at this exact moment. So that is the play that I think makes the most sense. I'm about to tell you top 5, bottom 5. But first, I got to get a glass of water. All right. Here are the top 5 teams, and here are the bottom 5 teams in the NFL right now. Here is the top 5, all right? The best team in the NFL, in my opinion, right now, is the New England Patriots. The second best team in the NFL, Dallas Cowboys. I believe we are headed for the New England Patriots against the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl in Miami, in a battle that will drive everyone who isn't a Patriots or a Cowboys fan insane, but everybody will watch because these are the 2 most hated teams in the NFL. So I think that so far the Patriots have been the best team in the AFC, and I think so far the Cowboys have been the best team in the NFC. In the third spot, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. You just heard me talking about why I believe they should trade for Jalen Ramsey. In the 4th spot, the LA Rams. And in the 5 spot, I have got the Baltimore Ravens. All right? Those are, in my opinion, so far this year, the 5 best teams in the NFL. My Outkick power rankings. Patriots 1, Cowboys 2. In the 3 spot, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. In the 4 spot, I've got the Rams. And in the 5 spot, I have got the Ravens. That is the list of greatness. What about the list of sadness? What about the misery index? What about the worst 5 teams in the NFL right now on my list? I have the Panthers. Cam Newton now out. They lost their first 2 at home. I've got the Panthers at 28. I've got the Giants at 29. I have got in the 30th spot, the Washington Redskins. In the 31 spot, I've got the Jets. And the worst team in the NFL, I have got the Miami Dolphins. That is my top 5, bottom 5. All right, let me give you an update on Antonio Brown. I haven't seen a lot of reporting actually go into this, but I told you the minute that this complaint came out last week, alleging sexual assault, I said the single most important detail here to me is, did this woman file a criminal complaint and demand that Antonio Brown be investigated for rape? Because in her civil complaint, what she describes happening, if you presume and assume that it is true, is a crime that Antonio Brown should be behind bars for, okay? Report is that she sat with NFL investigators for 10 hours, all right? I'm not defending Antonio Brown as being a good dude. I wouldn't want Antonio Brown as one of my coworkers. I wouldn't want Antonio Brown as one of my friends. But you can't suspend a guy based on an allegation in a civil complaint when there is no criminal underlying allegation of impropriety. We have called all around South Florida with Outkick, my guy Danny G on the show. He called Miami-Dade County, Miami Beach, the city of Miami, Dade County, Hollywood, Florida, where all of these activities could have allegedly happened. Hollywood, Florida, in Broward County is where Antonio Brown actually lives. And there's never been a criminal complaint. There's never been a criminal investigation into Antonio Brown. And so, my standard, and I would ask you to follow this and see how many people are actually consistent in this. My standard is allegations do not equal guilt, especially if, in this case, there is not a criminal investigation simultaneously taking place at the same time as there is a civil complaint. And I want you to think about this for a second. Take it outside of the world of this woman. And let me ask you this. If someone did something awful to you that was of a criminal nature, like a rape, would you want this to entirely be about money, or would you want somebody to also go to jail for what they did? Antonio Brown is rich. If he is paying you, he's still going to be a rich guy. It's no impact to him at all. Here, if you were truly raped, most people I think out there would rather someone go to prison than they would get money for that. You want somebody to have to pay something other than money. And if you want them to pay money, you probably also want them to go to jail too. You want both. So the fact that there's never been a criminal investigation here makes me more inclined to side with Antonio Brown here. I also think he's put the NFL in an incredibly difficult situation. Because think about it. The NFL investigated this woman and talked to her for 10 hours, reports are, yesterday. Okay? The NFL has been painted into a corner here. If they believe this woman, if they believe that she was raped, then are you really going to suspend Antonio Brown for 6 or 8 games? Everybody's going to say, wait a minute. Tom Brady got 4 games for allegedly deflating footballs, and Antonio Brown gets 6 games for rape? That would be utterly insane, okay? Or 8 games or whatever it is. Everybody out there is going to point out how ridiculously dumb that is. On the flip side, if the NFL doesn't believe this accuser, then the NFL is going to get accused of going easy on a star when it comes to mistreatment of women. The NFL is not in a good spot, and the reason why the NFL is not in a good spot is because of a simple fact. The NFL created a mess when they instituted the personal conduct policy because it put them in the business of trying to figure out what was the truth when it came to issues of rape and all other sorts of issues like domestic violence, child abuse. It's insanely dumb. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for the NFL to be in this business. Now, going back to the Antonio Brown situation, what I would do, some people say, what would you do? I would leave it to the courts. I would leave it to the justice system. I would not try and put the NFL in the middle of determining the truth of a he said, she said allegation. Makes no sense whatsoever. So, the other thing I would say about this, in addition to the fact that there is absolutely no reason for the personal conduct policy to exist, which is what initially created the issue that almost got Roger Goodell blown up, was the Ray Rice case. People gave Ray Rice and the state of New Jersey a pass, and they said, how come the NFL is only suspending him for a couple of games when there's video of this? How come the focal point was the way the NFL responded and not the way the state of New Jersey responded? There was video of him knocking out his fiance, and he got probation. This is, I think, an insanely dumb position that the NFL has put itself into. Now, here's going back to this case. Here's the other thing that I think is really difficult to get past from the purposes of this woman's allegation, okay? When you actually look at this woman's allegation, she claims that she was sexually assaulted in 2017 with the masturbation issue while she's watching religious videos in her complaint. And then she says the next year she came back to work for Antonio Brown again. If Antonio Brown had behaved that inappropriately for you in 2017, why did you go back and work with him again in 2018? If this was a man you believe was guilty of indefensible behavior, why would you go back and work for him again? That's what I can't get past from a factual basis. And on top of that, if you truly believe that you were raped, why would you not also go and talk to the police and get a criminal investigation going? Some people say, well, there's different standards of guilt or innocence. I understand. But claiming that you were raped to police is not going to undercut the value of your civil complaint if, in fact, you have a valid rape case. If anything, it makes your civil case more valuable because the threat of punishment is more severe to Antonio Brown. So the fact that there has never been a criminal complaint that is taking place simultaneously to the civil complaint is why I look at all the facts of these, and other than Antonio Brown's, we haven't heard a lot of details, but I'm a facts guy. Let's assume that everything in her complaint is true. If I am Antonio Brown's defense attorney, I want to get her on the stand, and I want to say, why in the world did you go back and work for this guy if you believed you'd already been sexually assaulted in 2017? And why in the world did you try and negotiate to get money from him instead of going to the police first case you could, first opportunity, if you believed he raped you. That's what I can't get past. I'm not saying Antonio Brown's a good guy. I'm saying that, like everyone, he's entitled to a presumption of innocence. And what I would say to you is, go look how often, whether they're in media, whether they're in sports media, whether they're just your friends and family on social media, how often do people have a consistent policy here? My policy is pretty straightforward. I don't believe allegations in the absence of compelling evidence. I didn't believe it in the case of the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. I didn't believe it in the case of Brett Kavanaugh. I don't believe it in the case of Antonio Brown. My position is consistent because I'm looking at it from a legal perspective. I'm not believing all women. I'm not believing all men. But in the absence of corroborating evidence of criminal conduct, I'm not going to believe somebody who has something to gain by making an allegation when there's no underlying substantiation for it. So that's just the truth. Last line here. The old ball coach, our buddy Steve Spurrier. Did you guys see what he said about Willie Taggart? Willie Taggart is under siege right now. There are 4 college football major programs that have hired new coaches, and things have not gone well in year 2. Mike Leach has been a disaster at UCLA. So far, Jeremy Pruitt has not been good at Tennessee. Willie Taggart has not been good at FSU, and even Scott Frost at Nebraska has not been good. UCLA, Nebraska, Tennessee, and FSU, all with second-year coaches, all with things not going well. In fact, I could probably put out a opportunity for you guys to vote. I should probably do that for maybe tomorrow's radio show. Which of these second-year coaches do you think has been the most disappointing? And so as you look at these 4 coaches, Willie Taggart has obviously at Florida State always been in the crosshairs when it comes to our guy Steve Spurrier. Somebody named Ainsley Lee got on Twitter and said, just told Steve Spurrier my dad is an FSU fan. And while I anticipated getting slapped upside the head with the paper he had rolled in his hand, he said, tell your dad Taggart is a great coach and FSU should offer him a 10-year extension. How about that? Steve Spurrier, always a Florida Gator, off the top rope on Willie Taggart. I think that's a fun way to end college football. It's tough to beat. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. In 20 minutes, I will be live on Lock It In, giving you some gambling picks headed into the new week in the NFL and in college football. I love all of you. Kisses, DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis, and this has been Outkick the Show. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.